That's right, ladies and gentlemen, in this video, you are going to learn about a new Revelations Easter egg which has been in the game for over 3 years and only recently has its meaning been fully understood. Now, this isn't your normal, typical Easter egg that you'd expect, but trust me, stick through this video as you are going to realize truly how clever Treyarch are at sprinkling breadcrumbs right in front of our faces in what the future of the story holds. If you're new around here and you want to be kept in the know with the latest zombies information, especially with Treyarch zombies this year, consider subscribing to the channel. It's free and it only takes a second, and 71% of you watching my videos aren't subbed, and that just does not make sense. But with that out of the way, let's discuss this Revelations Easter egg. And first and foremost, I don't take any credit for this Easter egg being discovered. Huge credit goes to Manside Press on Reddit, who made a pretty lengthy thread, so go check it out down below in the description. Give it a read and an upvote, but this blew my mind so much, and there's additional things I want to add into it that I thought this would be a pretty mind-blowing video. Now, what if I told you that in Revelations, Treyarch already left the breadcrumbs to tell us that Richtofen was going to die in the next map? You wouldn't believe me, would you? But think about this for a second. In Revelations, the very first Easter egg step is we have to shoot the gravestones of our 4 characters in a certain order. That order being in the order in which we collected their souls. Well, at the moment, that makes perfect sense and there's nothing out of the ordinary, but if you go into theater mode or no clip and look at these 4 gravestones, they all look identical, but if you pay the closest of attention to what's in front of Edward Richtofen's gravestone, he has a set of roses in front of his gravestone, which none of the other graves have. Now, back in the day, quite a few people noticed this and questioned why there were roses, but there was never any real conclusion, so a lot of people just forgot about it. With the context of Blood of the Dead's ending, it's now super clear that Treyarch were teasing in 2016 that something unique was going to happen to Richtofen, and that's why there are roses on his grave. Now, the video doesn't stop there, because there is a huge significance to this detail which Treyarch actually teased us before Revelations came out. Now, about a week or so before Revelations releasing, I, as well as a bunch of other zombie YouTubers, got to attend a special panel at COD XP where Treyarch's Jason Blundell and Craig Houston were there to talk about zombies, Revelations, as well as a Q&A. When talking about Revelations, Craig Houston specifically said the details, "Stop and smell the roses." Obviously, that is a figure of speech, meaning to not rush through something and take time to appreciate its beauty. This feels even more significant now that there is a rose on Richtofen's gravestone. This panel was professionally recorded by Treyarch, but unfortunately has never been released. But I do have audio of this exact sentence, as well as Jason explaining about how there's a lot of intricate little details into Revelations besides just the main Easter egg. If you listen closely and apply this context to the rose on Richtofen's grave, it sounds like they were talking exactly about details like this.
The thing about DLC 4, it is by far the biggest DLC we've ever done in terms of dialogue and ciphers and things like that. It was like in terms of character dialogue and audio logs and things like that, it is way bigger. So even when you charge through it, please stop and smell the roses. You know, notice the things that are going on, because there's a lot in it.
It was constructed very deliberately being our swan song, so it has very deliberate layers to it. And
some of which you might not realise till much later.
I think, yeah.
Same with Origins, actually. It's like, you know, now I generally don't sit on the internet looking at what people think, because it would get in the way of what I do, but you know, recently seeing some videos that people have put together using old Origins stuff, I'm very happy with, you know, how it connects and where it all goes. And
I think, here's the thing, if you look at the tempo, to talk about tempo of construction, if you look at shadows, the rise and dark, all the rest of it, there is a certain kind of immediacy and then secondary resonance to each one of the maps, if you will. 4 is designed to last for another year. So don't expect that so you're going to have a certain kind of impression, you're going to have certain experiences, hopefully they're fun, that's what we make it for. But we're also designing to hold you for about a year and a half afterwards as well. So if you come to conclusions and go, there we go, I'm done, I'm happy, I would say that you are wrong.
Now, what they said there pretty much hit everything on the spot. They said that there's deliberate layers to Revelations, and there's details which we won't really notice or understand for a while to come. And then Craig made the point about people discovering details in Origins which were never focused on before, which back then was stuff like the red scarf being Dr. Monty's scarf. This rose detail is exactly what they were talking about at that point. It's just like they said, every map has a immediate resonance where there's the main Easter egg and all the other side Easter eggs, and then there's a secondary when you really pay attention to some of these other little details. And if for some reason you're still not convinced, then there is another piece of evidence here. And this is an interview that my boy Noah J had with Jason Blundell a good maybe 9 months after Revelations dropped, and it was just after Zombies Chronicles. But Jason makes the point that there's still stuff in Revelations that people haven't clicked on the significance, and it's weird because to them it seems so obvious that it's gone completely under the radar. And he makes a really great point as well about how Easter eggs are consumed in this day and age, because Zombies is so focused on Easter eggs now that we're all cramming in these Easter eggs and these massive story points that there's other story bits that are less obvious that get completely undermined. Take a listen.
I think there's quite a few things, to be honest.
Quite a few.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like, I still feel like, and again, of the reports I've seen, and I don't see everything in detail, so I apologize for that. But of the things I have seen, there's still stuff in Revelations that people may have not clicked onto significance. You know.
Really?
Yeah, there's still, and it's really weird, right? Because from my point of view, you know, and Craig Houston, our lead writer, we're like, that's obvious. Why haven't they connected those dots or seen that thing? And obviously, it's easy for us to say that. It's different being out there and seeing everything as this kind of a big kind of mesh of things. But there's still elements. There's still elements that
the straws are out there to be picked up.
Yeah, it's still there. You know, it's amazing as the chase for Easter eggs increased and the intensity. And if you look at the zombie history, it became more and more about that.
Mm-hmm.
In one weird way, because there's more VO and there's more story being told, it's almost like the community skips over more.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the past, you know, back in, let's say, Chronicles, take the original maps, there was very sparse amounts of narrative told, and as such, everything was really picked apart and thought about. As in Black Ops 3, as we told more and more story, they actually looked at it less and less.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I've noticed is people skipping over things quite easily because there's so much. And I think it's that difference between the drips of water and the deluge, you know, means that you don't really look at the detail in the deluge anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of stuff I think that's out there that people may not have fully explored because there's so much to look at.
Yeah,
it's like I think just maybe to see the trees because you've got so much forest there. You know? Here's the thing: the consideration hasn't changed, just the volume has. But I think people misinterpret volume for less detail in a weird way, and that's not true. It's just more of it. If you see what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And that's a distraction technique as well. By giving more of something, people look at it less. It's like having the sparkly object in front of you. You'll focus on that. It's an interesting property of human nature.
Right, and I think we actually touched on that. I was watching over a little bit of the reveal stream, and you touched on that when you said people will come back to these maps and say that connects over here. We didn't pick up on that the first time, and the more you pay attention to that, and I think you even talked about the detail. It's the little things that show up, and I mean, so very cool.
I love the ones that are in plain sight. They're the ones I really, those are the ones that give me that kind of giggle.
And before everyone is running around with in plain sight on, looking for looking for hidden writing on the wall now.
Exactly. It's those ones that kind of make me chuckle a little bit when I see them, and I'll have videos sent to me saying, "Look, they just ran straight past it," or "Look, they just listened to it and didn't even think twice about it."
Yeah,
those are the ones that I would be lying if I didn't say I took a little kind of giggle about.
There you have it, guys and girls. That confirms right there that this little detail of roses on his grave was put there intentionally, placed under our noses so that someone might catch on to it, but it seemed like none of us did, and none of us thought it meant anything in particular to do with Richtofen. But now look at how things have changed. And it's really opened my eyes doing this video and learning about this. There's probably so many other details out there in all the other zombies maps that we have no idea of yet. We might have noticed them, we might have brushed them aside, but they might have bigger meanings. And it is very true that in these maps now, there's so many big Easter eggs and story thrown at us that we don't necessarily always pay attention to the smaller details. One other small detail that I'll point out in Black Ops 4 Zombies that doesn't have a story significance, but has an emotional and awesome real life meaning to it, is an Easter egg that a level designer at Treyarch, who on Twitter, Cornrow Wallace, if you're watching this, big shout out to you, he placed a personal Easter egg inside of Voyage of Despair, being a baseball glove with a baseball inside. And the story behind that is a childhood friend he's had since he was 9 passed away whilst creating Voyage of Despair. Since he was a huge baseball fan, he seemed it was a fitting tribute to put into the map. And it even has his name written on it as well, which is just a beautiful tribute and an amazing Easter egg. So I hope from this video you learned something, and that we should all pay attention to every little detail inside of zombies, because it sounds cliche, but this proves that there is a lot of things that we still haven't realized in these zombies maps, from small minor details like the roses. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like rating on it and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.